Hey guys, well obviously tonight is a special edition of Q&A with Dr. A because it's Thanksgiving night. And I hope you guys are okay with the fact that this one is not live streamed. Obviously I'm spending time with my family, but we didn't want the repetition of Q&A with Dr. A to be disrupted because of a holiday. I mean, come on, right? If I let the it's the holidays excuse hold me back, then what would happen for you guys? So we're coming at you pre-recorded tonight. And we want to make sure that you guys have a great holiday, time between Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, etc. Some free things that are coming up, of course, on the 29th. We have a webinar. Dr. Tiffany's actually hosting that on how to survive the holidays. We've got some e-books as far as the different healthy tips. Hopefully you use them to make some of your Thanksgiving stuff today. But if you didn't, then check them out for Christmas and New Year's. Great recipes. We got some questions about recipes here as well. And some fun stuff. Again, finally we're back live on WBT this weekend. So check out my show on Saturday at 3 o'clock. And let's have some fun tonight. So first question is, I'm wondering why I keep getting headaches after my adjustments. They're at the base of my skull. It feels like it's inflamed and burning. And so I do want to talk about a headache adjustment. Sometimes you come chiropractically and you come in with a headache, you get adjusted, and then you leave, and there's no headaches. Or you come in with no headaches, you get adjustment, and then you have a headache. And so some of us would be inclined to say, option number one sounds great. Option number two, who would ever want that? But I want to challenge you to remember that your body's going to do the right thing at the right time all the time. My analogy would be if you're running from a bear and your blood pressure is not high, that would be a bad thing. You'd want it to be high. So there are times where, believe it or not, a headache is a good thing. And you might think I'm crazy saying this, but remember, it's a warning sign, it's a check engine light, it's an indication of something happening. The classic sort of post-adjustment headache is typical, just like if you go to a massage and they give you a really good massage, they're stripping muscles and moving liquids around in your body, and you get that sort of nauseous sort of headache response. It's basically toxins. So if you've had a large amount of compression to one of the joints in your neck and you have a lot of toxins build up, they're released chiropractically. Whoosh, all the toxins are flowing. And what's unique about cervical adjustments or neck adjustments is, of course, all the blood flow first is going to go to the brain. And so a toxic onslaught towards the brain can lead to a headache. So, if that's your case, it's pretty classic to just drink some water, put a little salt in it. Usually it'll flush through. If you're doing some of the therapy like we do, I would be doing traction, using the neck rolls and things to sort of stabilize and just let your body kind of flush by itself. But on a side note, it's not a reaction that should be happening. So we may want to check your toxicity level, perhaps run a urine panel and see what your toxic load looks like. Or just for the sake of it, we're about to turn seasons here and go to 2017. Might be time to do a whole body detox for the next 4 weeks to finish out the year. So it is common, but sometimes it does happen. So next question says, I've been lifting weights. I've been told I should do it 3 or 4 times a week to get desired results. I'm doing 5 sets of squats every time and alternating them, but my legs are getting sore because of doing a lot of squats. Is it possible that something's wrong or I have a deficiency? So here's the thing. Obviously, when you're working out, there's going to be a degree of soreness, and it's mostly because, again, we tear small tears in the muscles and micro tears because you're using the muscle. And that's actually what you want, because then your body will sort of build a stronger, thicker, healthier muscle. So from my perspective, what I do like about it is the rotation. So how you said I'm doing 3 times a week and I'm rotating, so bench press, overhead press every other day. But if you're constantly doing squats each time, then of course we may need to give your legs a little break. Now I would suggest perhaps maybe instead of just doing a generic squat, look up all the different types of squats that could activate different ranges of the muscles along your legs. For example, there's a frog squat, a sumo squat, an air squat, all different types of squats that could get different parts of the body. So maybe since you're going to do it, each time for 5 sets, do 5 different types of squats, 1 set each to get your 5 sets. Or on Monday it's a sumo squat, and then your next one on Wednesday it's a prison squat. Yes, there is a prison squat, and then lastly we could do a frog squat just to get different portions of the muscles. The other thing I'm a big fan of when we're working out is to do it more in a burst pattern. So it might be 5 sets of 5, but maybe the first 5 are fast, the second 5 are slow, the third 5 are fast to create some alternating potential to it. But it is somewhat normal. Speaking of deficiencies, you may actually have a small protein deficiency. because if it's sore the next day and then again still sore the third day or the sixth day, it's a recovery sort of repair process that might be low, and that's usually like creatine and your protein powders. So I would suggest maybe not before you work out drinking your protein shake, but doing it after you work out, because that's of course when your body's going through a rebuild state. Hopefully that helps. I know workout questions are always kind of fun because it's supposed to hurt, but at the same token we don't want it to hurt a lot. Next question says, is there a natural method or remedy for anxiety and depression? I'm assuming you're asking how do I potentially get off of the classic sort of prescriptions, Zoloft and Wellbutrin and Xanax and things to that effect. But let's just talk about that in a reality, because listen, there are so many people that deal with anxiety, depression, mood, affect disorders, etc. And your classic sort of medical approach is going to be to sort of give you either medications that interfere with what's going on in your brain, because we have serotonin, norepinephrine, epinephrine, dopamine, etc. But if you've watched any of my previous episodes, remember almost all of your brain hormones actually come from your gut. So they found that 95% of serotonin is produced in the intestines, 50% of dopamine is produced in the intestines. So some natural remedies, believe it or not, for anxiety and depression are clean your gut out, which would be clean your diet, go a little bit more cellular healing. Go to our downloads tab, you can look into my cellular healing book. Make sure you kind of wash the gut out, do some sort of an enema. Coffee enemas are great. We've got an article and even a video on some steps on how to do coffee enemas and why you should do them. Potentially getting tested and finding out if you have a leaky gut. There's a massive connection between a present leaky gut and depression, anxiety, concern, worry in the brain. In fact, there's a brand new field called psychobiotics where they're actually talking about how your gut bacteria regulate your brain. But to answer your question, I think if we're going to talk a supplement that has some of the biggest calming effects, it's a bit of a controversy, so we're going to talk about it tonight, but it would be to potentially use CBD oil, which is cannabidiol oil, CBD, also known as hemp extract or hemp oil. Yes, we are talking about cannabidiols, which would be from cannabis, but there's two different types of the plant. So there's the high hallucinogenic side, which of course is your classic sort of street drug marijuana that we're smoking to get high. And then there's the more hemp side, same species, just different subset of it that has more of the oil and less of the hallucinogenic component. So this one's by a company called Elixinol. The reason I like this is it's a full extract. It's not just the oil, you're getting bits and pieces of the plant. And also it's got 15 milligrams per dose, which is extremely high of all of the different CBD oils I've seen on the market. Most of your classic sort of CBD oils will be 5 milligrams, maybe 7. And you'll say something like, oh gosh, this thing's like $150, which, it's around that price. And there's one down the street at, some sort of a just generic health food store that's only $60. But again, it might be third the dose, so it's actually more expensive. But I'll be honest, the science behind this stuff is amazing. They're now finding that you have cannabidiol pathways in your brain and that they activate neurotransmitter response. They help with anxiety, concern, worry, depression. Personally, I've been taking this just because of its generalized health effects, but I have noticed just a sense of calmness and peace when we use it. I'm not going to say it's like you're high, but you just have a sense that everything's going to be okay. I guess we could quote a little Bob Marley there or something like that, right? Everything's going to be all right. But at any rate, the idea is what we're looking at here is just the idea that we can let a natural plant extract actually take care of you because of its natural effects rather than like a synthetic effect. So I use this, it works great. You guys can, find more information about it if you want to Google it. We do have it here in our clinic if you'd like to get some locally, but really, really great product. How do you use it? That would probably be a good thing to talk about. It comes in somewhat like of a pen, so it looks almost like an injection, but it's not going to go into your muscles or anything to that effect. It actually is squirted straight under your tongue. So it's you twist the top, take this off, and right in the mouth. What you want to do is sort of massage it around your gum lines, and then maybe put a little bit of coconut oil or even hemp oil, some sort of a carrier oil in to swish it around the mouth. And then you would swallow it, and the suggested dose is just 1 to 2 per day. Really great stuff. If you want to look more into the research behind it, just type in CBD and anxiety, depression, concern, worry, cancer, whatever you want. And you'll find there's actually studies in different articles, even scientific articles, showing the benefits and the effectiveness of this. A couple other things you could do is, B vitamin deficiency has been linked to anxiety, so of course addressing that. You can get a lot of your B vitamins from your leafy green vegetables. And believe it or not, there's even some evidence that shows if you just eat a handful of cashews on a daily basis, you can cut back in the depressive thoughts and help with the anxieties. And I think it has a lot to do with the oils that are naturally found in the cashews. Next question's a fun one. We get this a lot, so I thought we'd answer it for you. So why is it that I get the runs or diarrhea when I detox, and how can I slow this down? So let me put it to you this way. We're going to take an analogy and see if you would follow the example and determine how to answer this question yourself. If I get a virus in my intestines, like enterovirus or rotavirus or just some sort of a bug that affects the guts, you're naturally going to liquefy your stools for one reason and one reason only. It's the best way to get toxins out. Rather than holding the stool in the intestines and letting you absorb it through the sort of an autotoxification process, diarrhea is your body's response saying, you know what, that stuff's got to come out, and it's got to come out fast. So if you're detoxing and you're starting to get higher amounts of diarrhea, it's because you're dumping an exorbitant amount of toxins into the colon, possibly through the liver, through the gallbladder, and your body's going, oh, wow, got to get rid of it. So my first step in sort of slowing this down would be to, ask a question. Do you want to continue to do the detox, which you should, and do something to sort of bind the stool to help you safely eliminate it? And that would be my approach. So we use something called Bind. It's activated charcoal with some magnesium, fulvic acid, and some other binding products, so that as you dump toxins, the gut doesn't get freaked out and then have to go towards diarrhea. So usually what we would do is take 4 of them at night before you go to sleep. If you do that and you're still a little bit runny, then the next day maybe take another 4 mid-afternoon between your lunch and dinner, or right when you wake up. Some time. You don't want any food in your stomach, so it needs to be on an empty stomach so we can bind things. But that's one option. Second option could be perhaps you're eating way too much fat. And I know you might say, but you keep saying eat lots of fats. But specifically the coconut and the MCT oil does have a loosening effect to the intestines. So in an instance where maybe I've bound up a bit and I'm still having diarrhea, I would just cut the oils back temporarily and see if we can get the bowels to sort of calm and relax. Lastly, there's some evidence showing, of course, that you may need to just bump the fiber up. So depending upon what type of detox you're doing, you might want to just simply get a fiber supplement, like a Fibroplex is a really good one. It just, again, it's adding some chelation products and sort of some firming products to the bowels. But don't be afraid of the diarrhea because, again, your body's doing the right thing at the right time. Now, I do understand, trust me, it's nothing that any of us want to deal with. Sometimes it can be so bad that you have to stay homebound. If that's the case, you definitely want to sort of bulk up on the bind and everything else. But if it's just, transient once or twice, it's nothing to really freak out about. If anything, if you're having the runs for more than a day or two, just make sure you rehydrate with salted water and your minerals and electrolytes. Next question is kind of a fun one. How do I know if a boxed food item is healthy or not? And I hate to say it, but the answer is kind of like telling you that it's not, just simply because it's boxed in the first place. But I think I know where you're going with this, which would be, I've got a food product that says it's organic and natural and healthy and all of the above. How do I know if it's really, truly natural, organic, healthy, and all of the above? And in all honesty, you have to just turn it around and look at the back. So, the ingredients should be pronounceable, number one. You should understand what all of them are. There might be 5 or less. That'd be a good rule. But generally speaking, you want to watch out for the sort of classic, I'll call it trips, right? Natural flavors. What would I call it? I'm thinking of a phrase here. Well, natural flavors is one, but they often will have stuff where they'll say like that it's a processed or enriched or things that you might think actually sound good, but they're not. So some of the classic things that we look for would be, we don't want to see artificial flavors, obviously, but the word natural flavors, nothing in nature occurs as a flavoring agent. So to say that it's naturally flavored with orange, they're using something to actually create that. Second, of course, would be we want to make sure that the ingredients themselves don't have things like high amounts of sugar or wheat or anything to that effect. But I think you can also find out how effective and how healthy a food product is just by looking at the label itself. Because again, for me to have a product that's healthy, I want more fats than protein than carbohydrates. So just flip it over and look to see what's the fat amount, what's the total carbohydrate amount, what's the protein amount, and you should see more fats and lower sugars. If it's got that and the ingredients are pronounceable, says organic, then it's probably a pretty safe bet that it's okay. But again, we want to watch out for the boxed food items. Just something fun to let you guys know about. There are 61 different names for sugar. Some of those, of course, end in ose, like sucrose, mannose, fructose. But some of the other ones that are a little crazy are things like sorghum, rice syrup, artificial sweeteners, obviously. So make sure that you're not getting duped by some pretty heavy marketing. And the last question for tonight is kind of a fun one. I make Christmas cookies every year for my family, so long that if I skip it this year, they might go mental on us. I would like to figure out how I can maybe shift the mentality or make a healthier cookie. So listen, I get it. You know, it's holiday time and there's lots of traditions that have been around. I remember several Thanksgivings ago, we had a family member say, "I'm not coming to your house because you're going to serve a tofu turkey." Because they know we're healthy and they didn't want to eat a healthy turkey. So I get it, but I'll be honest with you. One of the best things you could do is potentially just not care about what your family thinks about your new lifestyle, because you never know how something you do may impact the future of someone else, especially one of your family members. Maybe one of them comes and says, like, "My gosh, I noticed you haven't made these traditional cookies this year. What's up?" And then there's an invitation for you to share your story. "Well, I've been learning about my health. I'm cutting out wheat. My carbs are down. I've lost 30 pounds. They probably will say, "How'd you do it?" "Well, I stopped eating cookies," for example. I'm just making that up. Another thing you could do is, of course, try to substitute your traditional recipe with something more alternative. So if it says wheat flour, of course you could use a combination of either a gluten-free flour, almond flour, coconut flour, etc. When it says sugar, you can Google and find the conversions for, say, like erythritol or xylitol or even stevia. If it says to use, margarine, you can use butter instead. So there's many, many ways to do it. But I think for a fun one for you, just go check out our website, AskDrErnst.com. At the top has a recipes tab that you can click on desserts, and we have several great dessert options, even some cookies that would be good for you. But remember, the best thing during the holiday time is, just have some fun, be thankful, and don't let the outside dictate what you do. So for example, don't watch yourself saying, "Well, because my family's coming into town, I'm just going to totally drop my diet for the day, and when they leave, I'll go back on it." Instead, I would look at that again as an opportunity to teach your family something that they don't know. Same thing with this, right? "Oh, I've got this holiday party on Friday night. I have to go to it and I have to eat there." Well, you don't have to do anything. If you choose to go, eat before you go and just hang out and socialize. Are you there for the food or are you there to hang out with the people? Hopefully it's not the food. If it is the food, it's a sign of a subtle bit of a food addiction, so watch out for that. But again, it's the holidays. I hope you guys understand. We're going to have fun on certain amounts of days, but we want to keep it healthy fun rather than totally trashed back to the way we would normally do things. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. Don't forget to tune in again on Saturday at 3 o'clock here in Charlotte, 11:10 a.m. WBT. Also streaming online, WBT.com for the Ask Dr. Ernst show. And below, if you scroll down, you'll see two things. Number one is a section where you can actually submit your questions for our show next week. And then secondly, the registration for our up-and-coming holiday health webinar. You'll find out some secret tips on how to survive the holiday sort of trips and things that sort of wreck our holiday plans for our health, and you'll see some great things and inspiration Dr. Tiffany has for you for your Christmas and New Year's, and how to begin the new year right. Thanks so much for joining us. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Until then.